This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Right, everyone, hope you're all doing well. So, in the interview that I've done with Eddie Hearn, I quick fired about 10 questions to him within about a 3.5 minute period. Reason being that I was late to pick up my son from school and Eddie Hearn was late to catch his train. So we literally quick fired some questions. Unfortunately, there were some other people there who didn't even get to interview Eddie Hearn, which is what happened to me last time as well. So on this one, I just quick fired questions, which is why I didn't respond to some of the things that he was saying because I didn't have time. So I'm going to break down some of the answers that he gave me. And on this video, we're going to talk about the Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz Jr. winner having to vacate either the WBO or the IBF. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the interview, as I said, it's 3.5 minutes long. I'll put it in the description box of this video as well, and I'll put it as a pinned comment in the comment section. Or just wait for this video to finish and it'll pop up at the very end, so just give it a click and watch it all the way through. So within this one, he happened to mention, because I asked him the question, which was which mandatory is going to be next? Is it Alexander Usyk, the WBO, or Kubrat Pulev, the IBF? And Eddie Hearn responded with this. Can you clear up, because for quite some time I always thought that the WBO mandatory would be next for Ruiz Joshua winner.
It is. It is.
Aaron
so is the IBF.
Totally different.
IBF is also next.
So which one comes
first?
So
is the WBO.
Because last time
I think a belt will be vacated, basically. I think both fights will be due. So
right, so there you have it. So let's break down the reasons as to why one of these titles is going to have to be vacated. Okay, and as you heard there, Eddie Hearn was saying how both of these mandatories, Usyk and Pulev, IBF, WBO, have been ordered next. So reason being, because the last time the IBF mandatory was completed, it was Anthony Joshua against Carlos Takam. That was back in October 2017. 1 month before that, the WBO completed its mandatory, which was Joseph Parker versus Hughie Fury. So technically the WBO is kind of next, but they're only 1 month apart. They both want their mandatories sorted out ASAP. Technically the WBO should be next because it was originally ordered about 3 or 4 months before it actually took place. But Hughie Fury, he got injured and didn't travel to New Zealand. A lot of you guys will remember that one. So that was then pushed back, etc, etc. So technically the WBO should be next. Now Alexander Usyk is the WBO mandatory and Kubrat Pulev is the IBF mandatory. So let's look at a couple of situations as to which one will be vacated. Okay, and we're going to start off with, say, if Anthony Joshua defeats Andy Ruiz Jr. on December 7th in Saudi Arabia. So he gets all his belts back, but he's then going to have to relinquish one of them. So which one is he more likely to do? So if he was to relinquish the WBO, that means he's not going to be fighting Alexander Usyk. But Alexander Usyk is also a matchroom fighter, just like Anthony Joshua is. So if Usyk goes and fights for that one, which he will do against whomever it may be, we can speculate as to who, and if Usyk was to win that title, then a unification between Usyk and Anthony Joshua is more likely to take place. It'd be easier to negotiate because they're both under the same umbrella of Matchroom. If he was to vacate, if he was to vacate the IBF, then it's more unlikely for Joshua to be able to get a unification and fight for that belt if he was to retain all the belts and of course defeat Usyk in that as well, because Bob Arum, Top Rank, will have the IBF in their stable, potentially. If not, then it will be the PBC that have it, because Kubrat Pulev is the IBF mandatory, and it's more than likely that it will be Adam Kalnacki who will fight Kubrat Pulev for that vacant belt. So whoever wins is not going to be within the Matchroom stable. So it's unlikely, or not unlikely, but it's going to be hard to get a unification against that. So in my opinion, I think that he will vacate the WBO so as the IBF isn't then frozen out away from him. That's my opinion. Now, if Andy Ruiz Jr. defeats Anthony Joshua again, I personally don't think so, but if he does, then for me, he's more likely to vacate the IBF. So complete role reversal to what Joshua would do. Again, fact being, if he vacates the WBO, then Alexander Usyk could fight for that title, and if Alexander Usyk wins, then that title stays within Matchroom. The PBC, Al Heyman, won't want that, okay? They'd rather run the risk by having Andy Ruiz Jr. keep hold of the WBO, even though the PBC don't like the WBO, but what they're going to want to do is keep all of the belts within their stable. So they'll vacate the IBF, which of course, Bob Arum, top rank, will then fight for it with Kubrat Pulev. But if it is going to be Adam Kalnacki, he's a PBC fighter. So if Kalnacki was to defeat Pulev, the belt stays within the PBC. These are the scenarios. That's what I think will happen. So Anthony Joshua, if he wins, he'll vacate the WBO. And if Andy Ruiz Jr. wins, he'll vacate the IBF. That's how I see it happening. The other scenario could be, for either one of those, could be fight Deontay Wilder or whoever the WBC champion is at that time. Then undisputed, while it does trump mandatories and all these kind of things, but it's not the law of boxing, okay? Either the WBO or the IBF don't have to sanction it. Either one of those could say, no, we're not going to sanction a unification fight, even if we're undisputed. We want our mandatory next. They can do that because there is a bit of a myth that all sanctioning bodies, they have to do it. This is within the rules. They don't have to, okay? And the WBO proved that when Joseph Parker, when he won the WBO title, when it was a vacant one, when he fought and defeated Andy Ruiz Jr., the WBO put out a statement saying, no unifications will be allowed. You will defend that title against your mandatory, which at the time was David Haye. Of course, David Haye then went and fought Tony Bellew, but then Hughie Fury replaced David Haye. So some of you guys will remember that one. So it was going to be Parker versus Hughie Fury, and that was the only fight that the WBO were going to sanction. They weren't going to allow a unification against Joshua or against Wilder at the time. So again, the sanctioning bodies don't have to do it, okay? They just don't have to. But if they allowed it, cool, then we get undisputed. But whoever wins the undisputed fight is probably going to lose 2, maybe 3 of those belts in one go, because the WBC mandatory will be up next, currently Dillian White, and the WBA will be there or thereabouts ordered as well, which is last time it was Povetkin. I'm not too sure who it is right now, but either way, these are the scenarios. For me, I think if Joshua defeats Ruiz, he'll vacate the WBO, and if Ruiz wins, he'll vacate the IBF. Why? Because both promotional companies will want to try and do everything that they can to make sure that those titles stay within their stable. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.